Hi, guys. I'm here today with a good friend of mine, Lowell Hall. And Lowell, as you know, comes to us with a lot of history and a lot of background about Amelia Island. And we are just happy to have him with us today. And Lowell, I want to thank you for doing this.
Thank you for inviting me.
Well, you're just more than welcome. We don't get together enough, so maybe after this we'll have more time to visit. Lowell, what are some of your fondest memories of growing up in Fernandina?
Oh, I guess the first memory, I was born here in Fernandina in 1951, Humphreys Memorial Hospital, and my most fondest memory was actually something that was told to me that has become part of my childhood memory, and that's whenever my father came to pick me and my mom up at the hospital. And our home was on Atlantic Avenue. But instead of taking me straight home, he took me to his store on Center Street, Halls, and put me on the counter while he tended to a little business.
Yeah.
And then he took me home to my crib on Atlantic Avenue. So that's always something that stuck with me. So the first place I went to when I left the hospital
was to work.
Was the counter of Halls.
You know, guys, I've been telling you throughout this whole series, you know, this generation grew up working, and and this is proof of it right here. I mean, you know, he came from the hospital, which was right next door, went to the store as an infant, and, you know, his dad right then and there, I mean, that's where he started. You know, speaking of that store, Lowell, there's a story that goes along with that, and what we're really talking about here, and we've already done a series on this, was Gene's store in the 200 block of Center Street. But before it was Gene's in 1941, it was Hall's store.
Correct.
There's a story that goes along with that, and I'd like to, if you would, touch on that story.
Okay. My father opened the original Halls on Atlantic Avenue, as it was called back then.
Yeah.
We now call it Center. In 1941. And he operated the store until the mid to late 50s. But when he first opened up the store, it was a long, narrow, or deep and narrow rental space that he rented from, I believe it was Bailey Dickens.
Yeah, because Dickens was upstairs.
Yeah, so it was a long, deep, and I would say that's probably 60, 80, 100 feet deep.
Yeah, that's the way it is today.
Yeah, and maybe 30 feet wide, 20, 25 feet wide.
Same thing today.
What my father did when he first opened up, he put a petition back from the entry off of Center Street, maybe 20, 30 feet deep, and he sold magazines and newspapers and tobaccos. And in the back, you went to a little side door. There were pool tables and poker tables, and I think they called them Charlie boards at that time. But a little kind of like a gentleman's club.
Yeah.
With some entertainment back there. And Dad operated that for I don't know how long. I've seen a few years, and Dad was well respected in the community. And some of the women from the community approached him one day at his store and told him that they were aware of what was happening in the back, and they held no offense towards him, but they just could not tolerate that any longer in the city, and they were going to go talk to the judge and to the chief of police of Fernandina and let them know what was going on back there. And he told the women that he understood and he agreed with them, but he could save them a little time, that if they didn't mind stepping through the door there to the side, they could step back and speak to the judge and the chief of police. They were back there either on the pool table or one of the poker tables. And that was a story Daddy liked to tell. And but eventually he did eliminate the backroom operation and turned the entire space of the store into what it would have been in its day would have been like a little super Walmart.
Oh, it was. Now he ended up. Your aunt Myra
Correct.
married
Gene Barnhart.
Gene Barnhart, and Gene ended up buying the store from your dad.
Correct. Yes.
Then it became Gene's.
Correct.
Yeah.
So he established the store in 1941. And also kind of goes along with that, back in, it's a newspaper article.
Folks, we're going to have photos of this up too.
Fernandina News Leader. This is January the 20th, 1950. And it shows a group of men with a stringer of red bass and drum with a sign in front of them that says Charter Boat Parties, Halls of Fernandina. Mm-hmm. So not only did my dad have the store in 1941, he also later had according to him, was the first charter boat.
I believe it. Yeah.
Where you actually paid to go fishing on a boat.
Fishing in Fernandina. Yeah.
But back to the story. So Dad, he opened the store in 1941. I don't know. I was born in 51. Dad still had the store. It was still Halls in 51. So sometimes between 51 and maybe about 56, Dad had brought in his brother-in-law, Gene Barnhart, as a partner and operated the store with my dad. Well, the shrimping industry in Fernandina was looking at moving to Brownsville, Texas. The shrimping was very good, which is down on the Mexican border, very, very southern point of Texas.
Matamoros.
Matamoros.
Right out of Matamoros.
I used to go to Matamoros and sell gopher turtles and rabbits to the taco vendors. That's when I was 7, 8 years old.
Yeah.
That's another story.
Okay.
But so Dad, he sold the business to his partner, Gene Barnhart, and built a shrimp boat, the Big Mama.
Yeah.
Was
my
built
uncle
by,
built it.
Yeah. Teleakis boat. And so that's when Halls became Gene's. Daddy packed us up, me and my sister. I was maybe 4 years old. My sister must have been about 3. And we took off on Highway 90, headed to Brownsville, Texas.
What a trip.
Yeah.
What a drive.
They had some of the best seasons on record in Brownsville, in the area of the Gulf. My father got there, and the first year he was there, they had the worst season they ever had in shrimping industry over there. We stayed there 4 years. And then Daddy, as he liked to say, sold the Big Mama to the insurance company.
Gotcha.
We came back to Fernandina and lived with my father's mother and father, my grandparents on Oak Grove Circle for maybe 6 months to a year. And Daddy bought a piece of property in Amelia City.
Yes, he did.
So here I want to add this to the photographs. This is a picture of me in 1951. Me and my mother on the beach down at Main Beach. And I was fresh out of the hospital. So that was my first time I got my toes.
You started off at work and then went to the beach.
There you go.
That's been the story of most of our lives around here that grew up here.
So anyway, so we get back from Texas. Daddy sold Halls on Center Street to his brother-in-law, Uncle Gene. And Daddy buys a piece of property out in Amelia City on the corner of A1A and Gerbing Road, as it was called at that time.
Yeah, now, and folks, just so geographically, so you'll understand where this was, if you take South Fletcher, which is A1A, and you follow it all the way to Amelia Road, where the roundabout is, and if you take a left going toward the plantation, well, right there on that corner is nowadays is a big gas station. Marathon, where the Marathon station
front
is.
Of Harris Teeter's.
Well, this is where Hall's General Store, Hall's General Store was. So this is the piece of property we're talking about. So
correct.
Go ahead.
And it was called, before Daddy bought that would have been back in 59. That was Amelia City Service Station.
Right.
And that was the hub of activity on the south end of Amelia Island. the activity that was there. At that time, the activity was primarily a few people that lived in the area of the store, and then the descendants of the slaves.
The Drummonds.
The Stewarts.
Franklintown.
The Green, Franklintown. And Dad had cultivated over the years a large black trade.
Right.
And, of course, credit.
Right.
And anything you needed, he was there to help. But anyway, Daddy bought that property in 1959, and it became Hall's. Now, my father borrowed some money from his brother-in-law, John A. Christian, and he was a prominent executive for Union Carbide and lived up in New Jersey at the time. And he sent his appraiser down, Richard D. Barker. And this is the original appraisal from 1959 for that piece. 3.5 acres. And it is small, but it does have a breakdown. And the total value of that property and the building and the fixtures, which included a deep freeze, an open meat case, scales, stock of groceries, and a gas stove. $16,000 was the appraised value. Now they were asking $20,000 for it. My uncle recommended my father not buy it because it wasn't worth $20,000. But my father had a different idea and said, no, if I can, we got a roof over our head. We lived in the store.
Yeah.
We lived in the store. He said, we got a roof over my head. We can make it.
Yeah.
So we bought it and we made it. So that was the beginning of Hall's on the south end of Amelia Island. And then there'll be some pictures here of it. Me behind the counter with Daddy.
Yep.
I was about 9 years old right there.
Yes, you were.
And there's me with my cat sitting on the Good Housekeeping wood bench in front of the store. They still have Good Housekeeping wood benches around?
I don't know.
They used to be real popular. You saw a lot of Good Housekeeping benches in front of people's
You did. I don't know if they do or not.
And I still have cats. I've always had kitty cats.
How many do you have now?
7.
Oh, my Lord.
But I have a cat door. They go in and out.
We have 2 dogs, and that's enough.
I've got 7 cats, a doggie, and 2 parrots. And me.
Yeah, well, Dale says we don't have a parrot, but she has me, and that's enough. That's, I've never understood why she says that.
Now there's a picture of the Hall store, but in 75, and that's the first tree I could climb. It was right there by the store, and I could get on the roof.
That tree's gone now?
That's that tree's gone.
Yeah.
Now, if you were looking at the location of the store in reference to the roundabout would be right along in here.
I got you.
When you drive, that's actually probably the actual pavement that you drive on as you come around the roundabout on that southeast corner. You'd only be maybe 10 feet off of the corner of the store.
Now, what year did you guys close this store? What year was the general store closed in Amelia City?
Well, we leased it out for a while.
Oh, okay.
We purchased Hall's Beach. We purchased a store on the beach, which was Myers.
Right, I remember.
And we're
that.
operating both stores, and that would have been in the late 70s.
Yes.
Somewhere.
Yes.
My wife, she's the person that keeps up with the dates. I have to add, if she was here, she could
tell you exactly. Yeah.
So anyway, both stores were operating back then. This one, we were operating both. Then we leased this one out. Then that lease was terminated. We leased it out to another individual who tore that old store down and built a new store. And then, excuse me. So there was a new store built, and that store's been torn down, and now you got the new Marathon.
Gotcha.
But we sold that property, I don't know, mid-80s, probably when we sold that. And then that's when we came to the beach store, not in 205. Again, that was in the mid-80s when we came to the beach store.
Right. And that was Hall's Beach store. And folks, what we're talking about is right at Sadler Road and South Fletcher Avenue, A1A. right where the roundabout is, across from Sliders, actually across from the public parking lot. And Lowell owned that for how many years?
Well, that was in the early 80s, and I still own it, but I have partners.
Right.
And that property, we first we bought just the corner. It was 110 by 110, right on the corner, which was Myers Standard Oil Station,
right,
and gift shop. Then I bought the property next door, which is the Hammerhead,
right,
which adjoins the beach store, and then bought the property in the rear, which is an apartment, rental apartment, and parking lot. Approximately an acre of property on that corner. It's approximately 10 years ago. I brought partners in.
And Lewis Williams, the original Island barbecue owner, opened up in the back.
Right.
And,
Lewis was, again, that's probably going to be in the mid 80s. Lewis was operating Island Bar.
Yeah.
Which is now the Hope House.
Yes. Up on 9th Street.
Yeah. And it was a booming place in its day.
Oh my gosh. Best barbecue in the world. Oh.
But Lewis was getting older, and with integration, the clientele had dispersed. And so he was going to close down the Island Barbecue. And I was a closed down Island Bar. He had barbecue in there. And I was down there about that time with a friend of mine named Herb Shue, kind of in mourning over the closing of the Island Bar. Lewis was there. And make a long story short, I told Lewis, you need to just come on out to the Hammerhead and do the barbecue there. And he kind of laughed and said, okay. And I said, I'm serious, Lewis. He said, well, I'll come out and take a look. So he came out to take a look, and in the back into the Hammerhead was an addition, and it was not occupied at the time. So I got back there with one of those big heavy duty magic markers, and I drew on the wall, this is where the pit will be, pit. This is where the fry later will be, hood, fry later. And Lewis says, well, call me when you get the fry later hood up. I said, okay. So during that time, there was a chicken shack at 5 Points.
Yes.
Yeah, there was a closed down gas station.
Yes.
That somebody
I'm
was
trying
selling
to think
fried
of the name
chicken
of
out
it.
of. And anyway, it had closed down. So the guy that owned it, and I was looking around, and I saw that hood in there still hanging on the wall. So I talked to the fellow that owned it. He said, if you want it, you can have it. Go get it. So I took a friend of mine down there. It's Albert Stewart, one of the Stewarts from the Franklin
Yeah.
who was a lifelong brother.
Mary Stewart.
And worked with me. So Albert and I went down there to get that hood. I wasn't familiar with the hood systems and the fire extinguishing systems on it. So we go in there, and the stoves were gone, but the hood's attached to the block wall. So, well, it had all these pipes hooked up to it for the fire system, extinguishing system. And it had the tank beside it. And it said, in case of emergency, pull this pin. Well, I knew what they did, but I figured it was old and dead and wasn't going to work. So I reached up,
pull it.
I pulled it, and like that, me and Albert are standing there looking at each other, totally covered in white that comes out of it, the suppressant. And all you can see from Albert is his eyes. You can get that picture. You would have thought the little rascals were in there taking that hood.
Oh my gosh.
Well, we took it down. I took it and hooked it to the wall at the Hammerhead, called Lewis. I said, Lewis, I got something I want you to see. So he came down, and there was the hood bolted to the wall.
Just like he said, call me when you get the hood up.
And I said, what are we going to do next, Lewis? He says, well, I'm going to call Tex McGowan and have him come down and build a barbecue pit. I said, that'll be a good next thing. If anybody could do it,
Tex could.
So Tex came down, built the pit, and that became the new location, or the continuing location for Island Barbecue.
Yep.
So that's how Lewis got there.
Oh my gosh. Lowell, did you ever dream we would see the growth that we are experiencing right now on this island?
Had a nightmare one time.
Yeah, it is a nightmare. I remember, the Chamber of Commerce when it was just a little tiny chamber. Bino, was the chamber director, and I remember Don Brown and Johnny Tiliakis and the local, city commission. And I remember the local county commission, Harry Poole and all of them, spending money, trying their best to get Nassau County and the city of Fernandina recognized, just trying to get people to come here.
Mm-hmm.
And, it seemed like it was a never ending battle, just trying to get somebody to recognize us and to come here. And then, of course, back in the early 70s, here comes Sea Pines Corporation and the plantation. And it seems like, that's when things began and that's when things started. And of course, today tourism is huge here on the island, and we now have, everywhere you look, if there's a vacant piece of land, somebody's buying it, building on it, and we have the old saying, we have more than we can say grace over at times. Parking's becoming a big issue, and this, that, and another. For those of you who don't know, Lowell is our eyes and ears and spokesperson for our beaches. And by the way, I want to thank you for doing that, because I know it takes up a lot of your time, but he keeps an eye on our legislative branch of government, not only city, but county and state. And of course, this is apolitical, channel, but I do want to ask you, what is the House Bill
631?
631. Do you ever foresee that being reversed and changed?
Yes, I
Good.
see it. I see it being amended in the future.
Good.
The attempt there was to protect private property rights, but at the same time to allow a defense and protection and a process to protect the public's customary use. I don't think they did a very good job of it.
No.
We already had numerous judicial determinations all the way to Supreme Court that did in fact prevail in the public's right of customary use to its dry sand beaches. All we're going to do now is have to take it back through another process, starting back from the beginning, which is the circuit court judges in each district, that circuit court judge, wherever this is happening, and it's already starting to happen around the state of Florida. So in Nassau County, on our beaches of Amelia Island, if and when, and you have to assume that there will come a time, and there already is some talk about this happening, that a oceanfront property owner will claim his private property rights to the dry sand beach. That will then be then the county or the city, whichever the case may be, then we'll have to enter into court using the customary use affidavits that we collected, and along with the procedure that's required by House Bill 631 to prove that we do have customary use.
I got you.
So, but what happens is, regardless of which side prevails, I would assume either side will appeal the circuit court judge's decision. And that's what's happened in the past. Then it would go from the circuit court to the state courts, to the state Supreme Court, all the way to the United States Supreme Court. So we're just going back through the same process that we went through before, but without a state law implementing a procedure.
So it's just the procedure to go through.
Right. Well, it's a pretty stringent procedure.
Yeah, sounds.
And what would happen is, if one individual property owner claims private property rights on their beach, on the dry sand beach in front of their property, you start that process. Then another one 6 months later could do the same thing.
Another process.
You could have theoretically, you could have hundreds of these cases all going on at the same time, because you have to address it parcel by parcel by parcel, where before it's been addressed as just a common customary use of that entire.
I got you.
So it's,
well, I'm sure there are those, that'll be watching this that maybe have kept up with this, and you know, this explanation is going to help them.
Well,
But,
yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain when you're knowledgeable of it. There's one thing I wanted to add too. Whenever I moved to the south end of Amelia Island in the late 50s into the old halls there, that was my playground.
oh yeah,
There was nothing down there.
nothing.
Franklin Town Village set down
know.
there. And so it was a wonderland.
Yeah, we used to squirrel hunt down there. Me
The
and
beaches
Roy
were wide
Rowland
open.
and Roy Nixon and all of us would squirrel hunt down there.
Mm-hmm. And of course, even when I came up to Hall's Beach Store at Sadler Road, but I can remember selling beach stickers, thousands of beach driving stickers, people coming in. But it's just something close to my heart, and vehicular access to the beach, not to drive up and down the beach like we have in the past, but to be able to drive your vehicle down on the beach. And I can remember at Hall's Beach Store selling those stickers, and a pickup truck would pull up there, and it'd have mom and daddy in the front seat and baby between them, and in the back would be grandmama and granddaddy and 4 or 5 kids with all their coolers and all their stuff and everything they needed to live like a king for a day on the beach. Drive down and park by the water's edge and live like a millionaire. Well, you can't do it now if we don't have parking on the beach in the areas that we still do. And
there's no parking anywhere
You have
else.
taken something away from so many people.
Yeah.
That can't afford an accommodation on the ocean front.
That's right.
And can't lug all of their recreational amenities with them down on the beach. So that's what really touched my heart. It wasn't the fact of the development, the Amelia Island Plantation, or the homes. I think we might be getting a little overboard with it, but the tide will probably turn on that sooner or later. But my position is, and what I intend to do for as long as I can breathe and get up and go do it, is protect the general public's right to
enjoy the beach,
to enjoy it in a fashion that they are historically and customary use.
Yeah. Well, Lowell, I know personally, I thank you for doing that, and I know that all of the natives like us, born and raised here, we thank you for doing that. And I know a lot of the newcomers. I mean, you know, that who don't live right on the beach, they thank you for, you know, your time and effort too. But I do want to thank you for sharing, you know, about because the Hall legacy on this island was big, and Hall's Grocery, your dad, LL, you know, with the charter fishing and the Hall's store downtown to out at Amelia to Hall's Beach store. I mean, it was quite a lot. I mean, going on here, you know, and like you said, I mean, he was quite a figure in the community, you know, and anywhere you go, I mean, you can, you know, Hall's touched a lot of businesses and a lot of people within the community.
Well, there's still an ace in the hole, Riley Hall, my grandson.
Oh, Riley, yes.
Riley Hall.
Yeah.
Jane Phillips and I.
Yes.
Garrett Hall, who's passed on, his son, Riley Hall. And he's living on the Phillips property on Phillips Manor Road.
Phillips Manor Road.
And he's in the process of getting his degree, 4-year degree in construction management.
Oh.
So he plans to stay in this area. Riley's probably 22 now. So he plans to stay here on the island, on the Phillips property on Phillips Manor Road. A couple of years he'll be in the construction business. I told him I might need a job. He said, "Don't worry, I'll have one for you." And we'll see where the Halls go from there.
Lowell, thank you so much for doing this. I do appreciate it. I really do.
God bless you.
Folks, I really hope you've enjoyed this. You old timers, I hope here again. I hope it brings back some memories for you. Some of you know, you newcomers to the island. I hope it's opened up your eyes a little bit as to you know, what it was like growing up here on the island and a little bit of the history. We got some more interviews coming up for you in the weeks to come, and but until then, we'll see you on the road. God bless and be safe.